The ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas, which came into force yesterday, appears to be holding. So far, an estimated 200,000 people have returned home to northern Gaza after Israeli troops withdrew from areas they had occupied in the territory. Palestinians in Gaza are continuing to make their way north as rescue workers say they've retrieved more than 100 bodies from the rubble, with thousands more thought to be waiting to be found. Hamas has until midday on Monday to return 48 Israeli hostages, while Israel must release 250 Palestinian prisoners and around 1,700 people who were detained in Gaza during the war. Donald Trump says Hamas is gathering the Israeli hostages now, adding that he's confident the Gaza deal he helped broker will hold. The US president is heading to Israel and Egypt on Sunday. For its part, Israel's military says it has completed the first phase of its withdrawal from Gaza. Our reporter Barry Caffrey has the latest.
Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians have made their way to the north of Gaza, which has been heavily bombed by Israeli forces in recent months. They're trying to return to their homes, or what's left of them.
We've been displaced for 2 years now, living on the sidewalks with no shelter and nowhere to stay. Thank God the truce is near. We're now on our way to Bani Sulayma, running. I just want to reach my place. God willing, things will get better and the truce will last.
One person who does believe it will last is President Donald Trump.
And how confident are you that the ceasefire will hold?
I think it'll hold, yeah. I think it'll hold. They're all tired of the fighting. Gaza is very important, but this is beyond Gaza. This is peace in the Middle East, and it is a beautiful thing.
This is a moment of hope, but only the first stage of a complex ceasefire agreement with many potential pitfalls. The ceasefire came into effect around midday yesterday, after being approved by the Israeli government. Under the deal, Israel pulled back its troops to agreed positions in Gaza, marked here by the yellow line. However, the IDF says it will continue to remove any immediate threat. The withdrawal triggered a countdown to midday on Monday, by which time Hamas must release the remaining 20 living Israeli hostages and return the remains of 28 who are dead, a process President Trump says has already begun.
They're getting them now. I mean, they're getting them now. They're in some pretty rough places under earth. They're in some pretty rough places where only a few people know where they are, in some cases. So they're getting them, and they're also getting the bodies, approximately 28 bodies. And some of those bodies are being unearthed right now as we speak. I mean, they're working on it right now as we speak. It's a tragedy. It's a tragedy.
For its part, Israel must release 250 Palestinians from jail, as well as 1,700 people detained in Gaza during the war. Under the terms of the deal, aid lorries should be allowed unrestricted into the Strip to bring desperately needed aid to Gaza's population. This was a commercial shipment heading north through Gaza City. But details of the rollout remain unclear, and it has not yet been confirmed whether any increased aid has reached people. More than 2 million people need food, clean water, shelter, and medical care. President Trump has confirmed he will visit the region on Monday to what he hopes are jubilant scenes. While in Gaza, people are simply trying to rebuild shattered lives. Barry Caffrey, BBC News.
Now, as we've been hearing, Israel will release 250 Palestinian prisoners and 1,700 people who were detained in Gaza during the war. However, as our international editor Jeremy Bowen explains, some key Hamas figures will not be among them.
The top 6 that Hamas wanted out, who are regarded by the Israelis as terrorist kingpins, they are not being let out. Now, one of them is actually not a Hamas guy, Mr. Barghouti, who is seen by a lot of people actually as a potential future president. He's seen by some as the Palestinian Nelson Mandela, letting those people go, not just those 6 who are staying in jail, but also there are lifers and 1,700 people who've been picked up and held without trial. Now they're all seen as national heroes by the Palestinians, but once all that is done and it's the price Israel's paying for the hostage release, then there's some really difficult negotiation ahead about how to interpret that 20-point Trump document which started this whole process off. And one of the clear things in it, actually, which is that Trump envisages a so-called board of peace chaired by him as the supreme supervisory body for the first stage anyway in the Gaza Strip, has been rejected by Hamas. They put out a statement with other Palestinian factions saying that Gaza should be governed by Palestinians and not by foreigners. So already a big bone of contention potentially there, and there are going to be a lot more. This is not going to be an easy process. Donald Trump has said that there's a good chance of peace forever. Sadly, I don't think that's the case.
Jeremy Bowen there. Well, our Middle East correspondent Hugo Bachega is in Jerusalem and following developments.
And we're now seeing these images of large numbers of Palestinians who continue to return to their homes in the northern part of Gaza. And we're hearing the accounts of, people who are really shocked by the scale of the destruction, the devastation in Gaza. And many are going back home only to find out that there's nothing to go back to. Now, there is, according to officials in Gaza, an estimated 200,000 Palestinians have already returned to parts of northern Gaza following this partial Israeli withdrawal as part of this ceasefire deal. And medical sources in Gaza also saying that more than 100 bodies have already been retrieved from the rubble of destroyed buildings. And it is believed that thousands of bodies are still waiting to be recovered. Now, there is now in Israel the wait for the release of the hostages. Preparations are underway for the release of the remaining hostages, including the 20 captives who are believed to remain alive. There is the deadline Monday afternoon in Israel for the hostages to be freed. And there's also the wait for Palestinian families, for hundreds of Palestinians who are going to be freed from Israeli jails, 250 prisoners, and also 1,700 Palestinians who were detained in Gaza during the war and were being held in Israeli prisons without a trial. So, expectation on both sides, but also we're hearing, the anxiety from the families of the hostages in particular, that any kind of last-minute obstacle could derail the process. We still don't know when, how, where these releases are going to happen. So it is obviously an anxious wait for these families in Israel.
Of course. And you mentioned there, we have been seeing live pictures throughout the morning in Gaza, in northern Gaza, in Wadi, as people are making their way along that coastal path. We're just showing our viewers now thousands of people making their way back to their former homes. They're arriving. They're totally flattened. Of course, people need aid where they are. And we were told around 600 aid trucks were going to be allowed through. Do we know, is that happening yet?
Yeah, we still, I think the United Nations is saying that some aid has been allowed into Gaza. I think aid agencies are saying that, it is not enough in terms of, the number of lorries with humanitarian supplies that have been entering Gaza. But again, this is the number that has been circulating, hundreds of trucks that are expected to be entering Gaza on a daily basis as part of this deal. And obviously, this is crucial in Gaza, where virtually everyone is in desperate need of aid. So this is part of this ceasefire deal as well, a surge in humanitarian assistance that is going to be delivered to the population in Gaza in desperate need after 2 years of conflict.
Hugo Bachega speaking to me a little earlier from Jerusalem.